Why would the mainstream media want to collude with the smear campaign, Flying Monkey Roadshow of the narcissist? Why would the mainstream media want to insult real survivors of domestic violence, IPV? I'm Angelica, psychotherapist with 30 years of experience. Let's break it down.
A major legal victory today for actor Johnny Depp in the defamation case involving his ex-wife Amber Heard. Let's get some legal perspective on this case with attorney Ariva Martin and former federal prosecutor Renato Mariotti. Ariva, what's your reaction to this verdict?
I think the jury got it wrong, Jake. I'm very disappointed in the jury verdict. I think this is another big win for powerful men, and it's a colossal loss for women. When you think about the allegations that were made in the UK case that involved defamation against a tabloid, the judge in that case found the allegations of Amber Heard to be credible, found that Johnny Depp did abuse Amber Heard. This jury, on the other hand, basically rejected the mountain of evidence that showed that Amber Heard, in fact, had been abused by Johnny Depp. The jury didn't have to find that each and every allegation was true. They could have found even one of them to be true. So you have to believe, this jury believed that Amber Heard made up out of whole cloth each and every one of these allegations with details, with facts, to create this, what they're calling a hoax. And I just find that pretty incredible. So I'm really shocked and surprised by the jury verdict.
So let's understand this. I've been trying to understand, trying to comprehend what's behind this. Disgusting, disgraceful, colluding with this absolute smear campaign, gaslighting. It's just more gaslighting of Johnny. And I'm just trying to understand, and I'm here to speak on behalf of all real survivors and victims of domestic violence, intimate partner violence. Because as a real survivor, when you are in the abusive situation, you are oppressed, you don't have a voice. Johnny did not have a voice. Johnny is finding his voice once again, as he said on the stand. He said on the stand he did not have a voice. He could not speak. He was shut down, shut up. He could not speak. Now, I've been trying to understand what's been happening in the mainstream media. And I don't think it's because I don't think the mainstream media is full of narcissists. I don't think that's the problem. It seems that perhaps they haven't watched the whole trial. And if they have watched the whole trial, then maybe they don't have an understanding of narcissistic personality disorder, because a lot of people don't understand, even outside of the news media. I think a lot of people really don't get what the real issue is here. And so I would like to explain what I see as being the real issue, because what's happening right now in the mainstream media is an absolute insult to real survivors of domestic violence, IPV. It's an insult. It's an insult to say that this win for Johnny is a loss for women. There's an attorney at CNN that said, she believes that this is, what did she say now? That this is a colossal loss for women and a win for powerful men. Where does that come from? I mean, does she not believe that men can be abused? I have a lot of clients that have been abused by their intimate partner, traumatized in the same way as the women that I work with. Their lives completely shattered by narcissistic abuse. So I think it's ignorance. What's happening is ignorance within the media, ignorance of not watching the whole trial, and ignorance about the issue of narcissistic personality disorder, because these are the symptoms that I saw. This is what I saw because I did watch the trial from beginning to end. And what I saw were symptoms of narcissistic personality disorder. And so I'd like to explain exactly what that is and, the etiology and explain it from both sides. So, people can have a better understanding of the issue. So, first of all, narcissistic personality disorder begins in very young childhood, and very often there can be abusive parents. You may have parents that one or both parents that are narcissistic. They may have um, a personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and you may have one or both parents that are abusive, can be emotional abuse, physical abuse, or both. And in Johnny and Amber's case, there was both. There was both emotional and physical abuse for both. Now, on Johnny's side, we know that his mother was abusive, physically and emotionally. His father was not abusive. His father was abused by the mother. His father took the abuse and basically did nothing about it until he decided to leave. On Amber's side, I know that her father was physically and emotionally abusive. I'm not sure about the mother. I'm not sure if the mother was also physically and emotionally abusive. So one of two things happens when a child is abused. A child will either become a victim or they become an abuser. So from what I can see, Johnny became the victim, and he took the abuse, and he allowed himself to be beaten verbally, physically, and he would try to hide. What it seems like happened in Amber's case, Amber seemed to collude with the abuser. She seemed to ally with the abuser, and she became abusive herself because she's also been abusive in previous relationships. She's had charges put against her for domestic violence in previous relationships, or IPV in previous relationships. I believe in 2009. I don't know if there was other instances. And, we've heard how, she, would hit her sister, and other instances. So it seems to me that Amber allied with the abuser. And both are defense mechanisms, so to ally with the abuser, a child will do that in order to feel more powerful. It's kind of a way to protect herself, because if you become friends with the abuser, you ally with them, you're on their side, then that's a way to not be abused. Because if you side with the abuser, the thinking is you're less likely to be abused. So I believe this is why that happens. And so for Johnny, as the victim, he was just the victim. So when you're the victim, chances are you're going to be re-victimized. You will be re-victimized again, which is exactly what happened to him with Amber. He was re-victimized. It was a total reenactment of his whole childhood. Complete reenactment where Amber hit him, Amber yelled at him, put him down, called him down to the lowest, emasculated him, just trashed him. And what would he do? He did the same thing that he did in his childhood. He would go hide. He would try to hide. He would even get another hotel room to escape from her for when the fight broke. He was always, planning an escape route. He would hide in bedrooms, hide in bathrooms, and she would follow him. She was the aggressor in that relationship, which was her pattern from childhood. And so what happens with the aggressor? This is when the narcissistic personality starts to develop, is in very early childhood. It's with this problem with attachment with the parent or parents. It's with the constant abuse. Part of this abuse is not being seen. The narcissist will not be seen, will not be acknowledged. Healthy narcissism is when the child is acknowledged for, their milestones. For instance, if the child starts walking, then the parent will be proud and be, yay, you're walking, and will show approval, will show that they're proud of the child. When narcissistic wounding happens, that child might be completely ignored. That child will not be seen. Maybe because if the parent might be abusive, might be angry all the time, yelling, screaming, hitting. I don't know, maybe he was, maybe Amber's father was hitting the mother too. I don't know the exact circumstances. I just know we heard that there was physical abuse. And so in the case of narcissistic parents, they won't see the child. They don't see the child for who that child really is. They don't see the milestones. They don't give the approval that the child needs. They don't give the love that the child needs. And it was the same for Johnny. He did not get the love and approval that he needed either. But he became the victim. And Amber became the abuser. It's two sides of the same coin. They were both abused, but the defense mechanisms were different. And it's a lot harsher when the child becomes the narcissist, when the child becomes narcissist / abuser, okay? Same thing. It's much harder for Amber to recover from that because the wounding happens at such an early age, and the wounding is so unconscious, and the defense mechanism is so strong, so strongly allied with the abuser, that it becomes very hard for the narcissist to acknowledge and take accountability, acknowledge that they are the abuser. It becomes very hard for them to accept responsibility. Why? Because their whole life since they are a child becomes like a false life, a false self. They develop this false self of, bravado and just being tough and just, the fighter. And this child just becomes the fighter all the time. And these will be the bullies in school, the bullies in the family, the bullies in school. And so around all of that, they have to lie, they have to manipulate in order to get their needs met within their own family. They have to lie in order to protect themselves. They have to manipulate in order to get any needs met because their needs are not met. Their emotional needs are not met. And so they are in a constant state of deprivation. So their whole life becomes a lie, and it becomes one lie on top of the other, on top of the other. And it's just manipulating, it's constant manipulating. So in the process of developing this narcissistic personality disorder, this personality disorder develops because they are not loved by their parents. Not only are they not loved by their parents because the parents are not able to love them, because they were not loved. It's an intergenerational cycle of abuse that's going on, okay? With all abuse situations, it's an intergenerational cycle of abuse that everybody is repeating through generations and generations. It goes way back. So the child develops narcissistic personality disorder because they do not feel loved. They are not loved. And they may actually feel a disdain, a hate. And I have felt that. I've been around narcissistic parents, not my own, but other parents. And I have seen that. I have felt that hate, that disdain. It's coldness. It's very cold. It's just, I don't know any other way to describe it. It's just cold. And so this child does not feel love. And so in order to cope with that, that child of the narcissist, who is also becoming a narcissist, has to cut off their own emotions. They cut off from a very, very young age, toddler, very, very young age. That narcissist learns to cut off their own emotions. They cut off their own feelings. And so this is why they lack empathy. This is why they can be cold, calculating, manipulative, vindictive, deceiving, hateful, is because they have long since cut themselves off from their own feelings, from their own emotions. They have no empathy. Life becomes about me, myself, and I. They don't do anything unless there's something in it for them. They don't. There has to be something in it for them. They are not the empath. The empath is their victim, is the target. The empath, they get their energy from the empath. They are drawn to the empath because the empath has an enormous ability to feel, has an enormous ability to love. And so they are drawn to the empath because they need that energy. They need the energy of the empath. They need that narcissistic supply in order to make themselves feel good, because the empath will love them, will adore them, will praise them, will, make them feel amazing. That is their narcissistic supply. And they will take from the empath. They will use the empath. Take and take and take. Take them for all they're worth. Take them until there's nothing left to take, but there's always something to take from the empath, right? Because we're very giving. And we give and we give and we overgive. And the empath is very trusting and very loving, and we're clueless, honestly. Where the empath is just, before you learn about narcissistic personality disorder and what you've been dealing with, you're oblivious. And this is why the empath will continue to be re-victimized over and over and over again, and played over and over and over again by these narcissists, because we haven't a clue until we get a clue, until we figure things out, until we get educated about this. So yeah, so I just want to explain a bit more about both sides, and where the narcissist is coming from, where the empath is coming from. And so the empath has long since cut off their feelings because they had to, because it was too painful to deal with this hate from the parent. And this hate from the parent, the hate from the narcissist, is a projection. They project their own hate onto us. The parent projected their own hate onto the child. And it's too hard for a child to bear. So the child has to cut off from their emotions. It's a survival mechanism. How else can they survive when they are faced with so much hate? Especially if there's no support there. Amber may not have had any support from either parent. There may have been nothing there, and so she allied with the abuser. That's how a bully becomes a bully. As harsh as it is, that's how it happens. That's how and why it happens. That's how and why an abuser becomes an abuser and a victim becomes a victim. Johnny had the support of his father. His father was not a narcissistic abuser. His father was a victim. But his father was a support. His father was a good man. Amber may not have had any kind of support in her life, and so this is why she became the abuser. This is my take on it. And so that when the child grows up, that continues. The lies continue. because this is what they know, this is what they've done their whole life. So it continues into adulthood. Just like Johnny's pattern continued into adulthood. His pattern of being abused and hiding, his pattern of being a victim continued into this relationship. Amber's pattern of being the abuser continued in this relationship. Her pattern of lying and even lying, it's at the point of gaslighting where you are denying the obvious. And she did that on the stand, denying the obvious. For instance, Morgan Knight, he testified on the stand that he was there at the, what was the place called now? The trailer park. It'll come to me. But he was there at the party. And then Amber the next day was denying, no, he wasn't there. I don't know this guy. I mean, she was denying the obvious. Hicksville, that's the name. Hicksville Trailer Park. So she was denying the obvious, and it was like watching the narcissist unravel on the stand. She was unraveling on the stand because for those of us, real victims of intimate partner violence, we see that. We've lived it so many times. I have lived that so many times. When you've been with more than one abuser, they all do the same thing. They deny the obvious. And this is gaslighting because they're trying to mess with you. They're constantly denying, constant lying. These are compulsive liars, manipulators, constantly strategizing.
Ms. Heard, you just testified that this case has been very hard for you. So let's talk about that and why.
All right.
Your lies have been exposed to the world multiple times, right?
I haven't lied about anything I've been here to say.
You sat here and told this jury that the events in Hicksville started with Mr. Depp getting really upset about a woman leaning on you. Is that correct?
Yes, that's effectively what happened, yeah.
You testified that he actually grabbed that woman's wrist and twisted it, right?
And told her that he could effectively break her wrist by saying he knew how many pounds of pressure, or asking her how many pounds of pressure it took to break a human wrist.
But your own witness, your former best friend, Rocky Pennington, she didn't corroborate that, did she?
I'm not quite sure what part of that night she saw. There were a lot of people there.
She didn't testify that Mr. Depp grabbed anyone's wrist in Hicksville.
Again, I don't know what Rocky saw. There were a lot of people there that night.
You testified that once you brought Mr. Depp back to your trailer, he trashed it, correct?
That is correct.
And the manager of the Hicksville trailer park was furious that Johnny had wrecked the whole thing. Do you remember that testimony?
That's correct.
Well, we heard from that manager of the Hicksville trailer park, Morgan Knight, on Monday, didn't we?
I'm not quite sure who that guy was or if he had any involvement in this. I know a lot of people have come out of the woodwork to be involved.
So you're accusing Mr. Knight of testifying and committing perjury?
I'm not accusing anyone. I just don't recognize that man.
You heard Mr. Knight testify that it was actually you who was upset with Mr. Depp spending time away from him. Isn't that correct?
How would he know? He wasn't there.
You heard Mr. Knight testify that it was actually you who was yelling at Mr. Depp.
Again, I've heard a lot of people say a lot of things to be involved in the Johnny Depp show, but he wasn't there. He doesn't know. And he certainly doesn't know what happened behind closed doors, like most people.
So you're calling Mr. Knight a liar?
I am saying he wasn't there, and what he testified to doesn't match what I know happened. But I don't fault him. He wasn't there, so how would he know?
He testified he was there, Ms. Heard. Did you hear that?
That's his testimony, yes.
So you're calling him a liar?
I'm just saying he wasn't there.
Because they don't have no real sense of self. They have such low sense of self-worth, a zero sense of self-worth, true self-worth. Now, they might seem confident on the outside, but on the inside, they're falling apart. On the inside, they have zero self-worth, zero self-esteem, zero value for themselves. And so because of that, sometimes they have to emulate others. They will try to be like others. They are the chameleons. So they will try to be like other people. And in the beginning of relationships, especially, in order to win over the target, the victim, in order to win you over, they will often act as if they have so much in common with you. They will study the person. They will study their target, their victim. And then they will study you. They will know your likes, your dislikes, what you're into. Then all of a sudden they're into the same thing. You know, like Amber was into the same books, and Johnny said, oh, you know, we were into the same books. We like the same music. We like the same, the same quirky music, the same quirky books. And isn't that amazing? I went through the same thing. Some of my past partners did the same thing. Oh, you're so spiritual. You know, it's like, wow, oh my goodness. Really, you too? Wow. And then later on down the line, start, trashing everything spiritual about me. That happened. And the same thing happened with Johnny. So she loved the same music. She loved the same quirky books, and we saw on the stand she was dressing like him. Did you all notice? Wearing the same suit. Most of the trial, she's wearing the same color suits every day. He wore a black suit. She wore a black suit. He wore blue. She wore blue. He wore brown. She wore brown. Throughout the trial. I thought, what, what's going on? She somehow found out what colors he was wearing because she was matching. But this is what you see in a narcissistic personality disorder, is that they will emulate other people. And I didn't just see it in intimate partners. I saw this in friends. All of a sudden, oh, they're all spiritual because I'm very spiritual. So, oh yeah, they'll be all spiritual. Kumbaya around the spiritual circle. Come to find out, these are total toxic narcissists, evil to the core, manipulating and scheming behind your back. Now, this is not, my purpose here isn't to shit on the narcissist, pun intended. That's what they do. Narcissists will shit on people. That's what they do. Literally, obviously, and figuratively. But I'm speaking now to understand where this all comes from, so that you all have a better understanding, because there's a huge lack of understanding. And this is what happens. And this is what I saw. We've seen the manipulation, the compulsive lying. And I mean, these people can be very, very vindictive. And they love the drama. This is one main thing about a narcissist. They thrive on the drama. So this whole core process, she's probably loving it because they thrive on the drama. They create drama where there is none. We all know that. Us real survivors, we know that. They create drama where there is none. Every day, frequently. And like I've said before, it's not every day, because we do go through honeymoon periods. Things are fine, and then that gives us the hope that, it's going to be better. This is great. But then the tension starts and the explosion starts, and then you're, going through the cycle of violence again. So this is the reality, and this is what Johnny's been dealing with. And I don't think Johnny knows. I don't think Johnny realized that. Johnny probably doesn't. He may not realize that that's what he's been dealing with. I don't know. But when we start to understand it, this is when we can sort of step back and realize what we've been involved in, and start taking care of ourselves and get out of that toxic relationship or relationships. Because this happens everywhere, not just in intimate partner relationships. This happens in the workplace. It happens with friendships. It happens everywhere in our lives. And I've been schooled by the narcissist for the past 7 years, I'd say, in every area of my life. So this is why I can be here talking to you right now and explaining it all. And for sure, in Johnny's case, there's some explanation needed, because this is an absolute insult for this to be in the mainstream media now, supporting this whole smear campaign. It's just more gaslighting. It's gaslighting of Johnny. It's gaslighting not just of Johnny, but all of us, real survivors of domestic violence. It's an insult. It's a disgrace. I used to watch some mainstream media. I used to watch these news channels. I'm just disgusted right now. I can't believe this. And it's just, I think it's just ignorance. I don't think these people have watched the trial. And I think it's also total ignorance of narcissistic personality disorder and what Johnny has been going through. So I'm happy for Johnny's win, and I hope I've been able to enlighten some people. And yeah, so I'll leave it at that. And if anybody is in need of any psychotherapy, you can subscribe to the membership down below, Buy Me a Coffee membership, where I give you exclusive content. I upload exclusive content every week of amazing psychotherapy techniques. So until next time, bye, Rise Tribe.